short need only to be. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. All handles of utensils that are too long and will be cut short need only to be immersed up to the prescribed length. Rabbi Judah says only if it is completely immersed. The prescribed length for the chain of a large bucket is 4 handbreadths. For the chain of a small bucket is 10. They need to be immersed only up to these prescribed lengths, and Rabbi Tarfon says only if the link is completely immersed. A string tied to a basket is not considered a combination unless it is sewn on. Beit Shammai says we may not immerse hot water in cold water, or cold water in hot water, or clean water in foul, or foul in clean water. Beit Hillel says we may so immerse them. If one immerses a vessel that is filled with liquid, it is as though it is not immersed. But if it is filled with urine, it is regarded as water. If it is filled with purification water, it is not a cleanse unless the water of the mikveh is more than the purification water. Rabbi Yossi says even if a vessel with the capacity of a quart contains only one revis of these liquids, it is as though it was not immersed. Zion. All foods can combine to make up the amounts of half of a process that disqualify a person. All liquids can combine to make up amounts of a revius that disqualifies a person. If one started a ring that is tahor and he entered a tank containing a corpse, and then he himself sprinkled upon and sprinkled, pinkling repeated, and he immersed himself, and then he vomited it up, it was written. I missed something?
So did you just go into Ches?
I went up to the cast, yes. I was too
Oh,
far,
that's
right?
me. I'm Ches.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Achal ochlim tameim. So a guy eats tame food or drinks tame liquids. Okay, so obviously he becomes tame from them. Tavel. So now he goes to mikveh, so he becomes tahor. Okay, the food that's inside him that's undigested or whatever is still is not considered is not it can't be matame him again from the inside. So
Right.
the minute he swallows it and he's become tame, he can go to mikveh. It's not like tovel v'sheretz biyado. If you're holding a sheretz in your tovel, it's just not going to help because it's going to make you tame immediately. But
Yeah,
the
right.
that is inside him is not considered touching him to make him tame again. Okay. Now what happens is he comes out and he vomits, and the food comes up again. So now that food remains tame. It's not like it became tahor inside his body because he was in the mikveh, right?
Right.
It doesn't make him tame by touching him because food doesn't have that ability. If a food is a rishon, it cannot transfer the tumah to him and make him a sheni. A person does not become a sheni. Only his hands become a sheni. So, for example, if he vomited up and then touched it with his hands, then his hands will become tame. Okay. Because foods do not become tahor inside his body. Shasa mayim tameim. Now, here's the difference. If he drank tame water, okay, and now he goes to mikveh, and then he vomits up, and up comes the water, tahorim. That water actually did become tahor inside his body because mikvahs can actually make water tahor. So, so if you took food and put it in a mikveh, it just wouldn't work, right? It doesn't remove the tumah from the food. Food doesn't have the parsha of mikveh, but water does work. So the water inside his body actually becomes tahor with the rest of his body. Mipnei shem tahorim beguf. Bala tabas tahora. Now, here's a guy who did what his mother told him he shouldn't have done, and he put a ring in his mouth and then got a fright and swallowed it. Okay, now that ring was tahor. Okay, nichnas the ohel hameis, and now he walks into an ohel, and he becomes, of course, tameh. So he's a b'shan of a tavel hikia. So he does his whole paraduma thing, gets sprinkled, and goes to mikveh, and then he vomits up this ring. Hooray, it stays tahor because being inside his body, it's like a sort of a tamid pasil. It's not it's completely protected from the tumah that goes on around him, and did not become tameh inside his body. Bala tabas tmea. What happens if he swallowed a ring that was tameh? So let's talk about a ring that was tameh on the level of an avatuma. So, for example, the ring itself was on the dead person or whatever. So the ring itself is an av hatuma. Okay, and he swallowed that ring. Tovel v'ochel b'tshuma. So first of all, he becomes a rishon because he touched the ring, and so he becomes a rishon. He doesn't need a 7-day purification. He just goes to mikveh. And now, having gone to mikveh, he can go and eat his truma as a kohen. Okay, but hikia, now he comes and vomits up the ring. The ring remains in its state of being an avatuma, and it contaminates him. It makes him into an avatuma. It makes him into a rishon again. Okay, it remains tamei and it makes him tamei too. Chetz shehu tachub adam. So a person got shot by an arrow, and now whatever he wants to go to mikveh. Bizman shehu nireh, if the thing is protruding from his body, it is a chatzitza. Obviously, a person doesn't want an arrow in his body, so it can't be considered an adornment. It can't be considered like he wants it there. That's a chatzitza. Ve'im eino nireh. However, if it's now buried under his skin, even if you can see it through the skin, im eino nireh tovel ve'ochel b'trumaso. So then it's not a chatzitza. The skin that's over it has closed it up, and he is able to go to mikveh. Okay. Hadron alach maseches Mikvaos. Okay, on to Niddah.
I don't know if he had an arrow inside if he'd be so concerned about eating truma.
Just a little one.
Yeah.
I mean, the same goes for a splinter.
Right.
Right. That if he got a splinter and he went to mikveh and he looks and says, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had that splinter in there." That's a problem.
Right.
But if he looks, sometimes you get a splinter that gets so buried that you can't actually get it out, and your skin just grows over it.
Yeah, that's right. I used to hate those.
Yeah.
But Shammai says regarding all women, their times of discovering of this.
No. This is still me. Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Shammai says, Kol ha-nashim dayan shatan. That so now we're talking about a woman who sees blood, and of course when she's a niddah, she has a very high level of tumah, and that includes midras. So anything that she's sitting on, if she's sitting on a chair or a bed or whatever, then the bed becomes an avhatuma as a midras. And then anyone tahor who comes and sits on that bed afterwards will become tameh from it. Okay, so midras is a very powerful kind of a tuma, and this is so the niddah is so Chazal said that when a woman is that Chazal actually made a decree at the time of, especially at the time of dealing with taras and tumos, that a woman should actually check herself every morning and every evening, and we're going to see how that plays out in our Mishna later. So just to be safe, make sure you check yourself morning and evening. This is a spoiler I'm giving you for later, but check yourself to make sure that that you know when you become tameh. And everything, and you'll see how that will save us a lot of time and trouble later. Shammai says that if a woman sees blood, dayan shatan, then he says it's just like we said in Maseches Toros, that you well, no, actually it's not. Cancel what I said. I just saw this. I realized that what I said is actually not logical. So, but basically, he says you don't have to go backwards. Just say this is you saw blood, and from now on, everything that you touch is tameh. But whatever you touched like 10 minutes ago is fine. Don't worry about it. Hillel omer mefkida levkida afilu yamim harbe. Hillel here this is one of the chumras of Hillel, is that he says forget about it. If she hasn't checked herself for 6 days, and now she sees blood, then we've got to be suspicious of everything that she's touched for the last 6 days.
Right.
Okay. וחכמים אומרים לא כדברי זה ולא כדברי זה. Hillel is too machmir and Shammai is too makil. What's the compromise position? إلا מאס לאס ממאס על יד מפקידה לפקידה מאס על ידי מאס לאס. Basically, it's the shorter of the two between 24 hours and the last time she checked herself. So so they said, look, we've told women that they need to check themselves every 12 hours, morning and evening. Okay. And that way, if things come out right, then she should then the maximum that'll happen if she discovers that she's tamei midway through the day is like everything that's since that morning, since her last check will be tamei, but everything before that is fine. But if she did not check herself in the last 12 hours, then we penalize her and go back 24 hours. And we're going to make tamei everything that was not checked, everything in the last 24 hours that she touched or moved. Okay. Kol isha sheyesh la veses. Now, if a woman has a very regular and predictable cycle, so that's the veses is her cycle, dayashata, then just the time that she's expecting it is sufficient. So like she knows that from cycle to cycle is 27 days. So she's on the 27th day, and then she sees blood as expected in dayashata. Then we agree with Shammai and say we don't have to go back. This is her regular cycle, and everything's as expected, and there's nothing else to worry about. A woman who has relations with her husband should check herself before and afterwards to make sure that she hasn't become Niddah, of course. That is just like any other inspection. And it also serves to as a cutoff point if she later discovers that she has come on, and now she's got to look at all the things that she's touched and whatever since then. But that makes your cutoff time a little bit later. Okay. Mr. Base, Ketzad Dayashata. So let's just dive in and understand what does Shammai mean, or what does the Chachamim mean when we say that if she has her regular period that at a fixed time, what does Dayashata mean? I say Yesheves b'mita. She's sitting on a bed, and she's busy handling tahor things. So whatever she's busy cooking truma or whatever it is that has to be tahor. Persha Virasa. So she gets up and goes to the bathroom and sees blood in the toilet. Okay, now she's tamei. But kulan taharos. But however, everything else that she's been handling, the bed is tahor, the truma and whatever else she's been touching is still tahor, because this is exactly the time that she was expecting to come on. Even though they said that she makes tamei everything from the last 24 hours. She in this particular case, she only makes things tamei from the time that she saw the blood. Hold on, just want to see this. So a woman who doesn't have a fixed time for her period, we have to go back 24 hours to take a look at what she handled in between. But this woman who has a fixed period, she just counts forward. Okay.
Okay. I was thinking that I could be off base altogether. When we have the mitzvah and the basic big dash back, and we're back to sprinkling and tamei and tar, we're back to the whole thing. So we have big problems with women. I mean, now they get on a bus, they can sit wherever they want. They take the train, they take this, that. It's going to be a big thing. It's going to change the whole world.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Zion Gimel in Mikvaos. If one rinsed it in a mikvah of olive baskets or grape baskets, they have changed its color, it remains valid. Rabbi Yossi says dry water disqualifies it, the mikvah when there are 3 lugim, but does not disqualify by change of color. If wine or olive sop fell into it in the mikveh and they changed its color, it's invalid. What should one do? He should wait until rain falls and its color returns to the color of water. If it contained 40 sar and he can draw water, carry it on his shoulders and place it into the mikveh until the color returns to the color of water. If wine or olive sop fell into it and they changed part of its color, when there remains not 40 sar but with the color of water, he cannot immerse them. Okay. And we have the horror.
No, we've got one more. Hay as well.
I thought we did the one before. Oh, okay. Sorry. If three lug of water which fell into a quart of wine and its color became like the color of wine fall into a mikveh, they do not disqualify it. If 3 lug of water less than a quart which fell into a quart of milk and its color remained like the color of water fall into a mikveh, they do not disqualify it. If Yochanan ben Nuri says everything follows its color. Okay. And Doros. Okay, Vav Beit. There are 4 uncertainties in which Rabbi Yeshua rules: the uncertainty Tomei and the Tomei and the sages rule Tahor. How so? A Tomei person is standing and a Tahor person is passing by, or a Tahor person is standing by and a Tomei person is passing by. A Tomei object is in the private domain, or a Tahor object in the public domain, or a Tahor object in the private domain, and a Tomei object is in the public domain. When there is doubt whether one entity touched the other or did not touch it, or there is doubt whether it shared a roof or the other entity or did not share a roof with it, or there is a doubt whether it caused the other entity to move or did not cause it to move, Rabbi Yeshua rules a tahor, the tahor entity, tamei, but the sages rule a tahor. Regarding a tree which was standing in the public domain and an object of tuba was in it, if one climbed to the top of trees and there is a doubt whether he touched the tamei object or did not touch it, the uncertainty is rules tamei. If one inserted his hand into a hole that has an object of tuma in it, and there is a doubt whether he touched the tamei object or did not touch it, the uncertainty is ruled tamei. Regarding a store which was tamei and open to the public domain, and there is a doubt whether one entered the store or did not enter it, the uncertainty is ruled tahor. If there is a doubt whether he touched the tamei item there or did not touch it, the uncertainty is ruled tahor. Regarding 2 stores, one of which is tamei and one of which is tahor, and one extended up one of them, then there is doubt whether he went into the tamei one or into the tahor one. The uncertainty is ruled tamei. Okay, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Olios, I know Olios. Okay, Dalit. If a base of prosperous field is above a top. Hey, what with regard to a field in which a grave was lost and a house with an upper story was built on it, if the story of the upper story was directly above the doorway of the house, the upper story remains tahor, but if not, the upper story remains tomei. Soil of the brace soil from outside the land of Israel that rises vegetables combined when there is as much as the seal of packing sacks. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. The sages say only when the amount equal to the seal of packing sacks is in one place. The Yehuda says it used to happen that letters came from overseas to the sons of Kohanim, Gedolim, and they had on them the equivalent of a saw and the equivalent of 2 seals, and yet the sages were not concerned that they might be tamei. How do we harvest the grapes of a base of pros? First, we must sprinkle on every person and all utensils that will be used in the harvest, and we must repeat the sprinkling and then pack and remove the grapes from the base of pros. Other people then receive the grapes and transport them to the press. If the people touch those, they become tamei, and these are according to Beis Hillel. Shammai says he holds the sickle with palm bast, or he reaps with a sharp stone, and then places the grapes into an olive pressing basket and brings them to the press. Rabbi Yossi says, under what circumstances are these things said? When a vineyard becomes a base of pros, however, if someone painted a base of pros, the grapes must be sold in the market. Okay. There are 3 types of base of pros. One who plants a ground where is that any special species of tree that can be planted, but no seeds can be sown, except for seeds from plants that are cut. And if he pulled on the plant, he piles its produce onto the field itself and sifts through it 2 sifters. These are the words of Rameh. However, the comments say grain with 2 sifters and legumes with 3 sifters, the straw and the bean shaft are then burned, and the field spreads tumah through touch and or carrying, but does not render tamei through an ohel. Okay. Good. Okay. The dangling limb and flesh of a man are tahor. If the man dies, the flesh is tahor, and the limb conveys tumah as a limb severed from a living person, but it does not convey tumah of a limb of a corpse. These are the words of Rameh, but from Reb Shimon declares a tahor. The mitzvah of giving the foreleg, the jaw, and the more applies in both the land and outside the land when the temple exists and when the temple does not exist, and it's unconsecrated animals, but not to consecrated animals. For it might have been argued if such unconsecrated animals, which are not subject to the requirement to give the breast and the thigh, are subject to the requirement to give the gifts. Then consecrated animals which are subject to the requirement to give the breast and the thigh, it is not logical that they be subject to the requirement to give the gifts. Therefore, Scripture states, "I have given them to Aaron the Kohen and to his sons for everlasting right." He has only what is mentioned in that section. All consecrated animals that have permanent blemish prior to the consecration and they're redeemed, they are subject to the law of Kohanim to the Kohanim when they revert to mundane status, even to the extent that they may be shown and put to work, and their offspring with the milk are permissible after the redemption. And one who slaughters them outside the temple courtyard is not liable, and do not affect Tamora. And if they die prior to the redemption, they may be redeemed, except for the Bakor offering and a Maisa offering. All animals whose consecration is preceded their blemish, whose temporary blemish preceded their consecration, and only after the consecration did they develop a permanent blemish, and they redeemed. They are exempt from the law of Korah and from the gifts to the Kohen, and they do not revert to mundane status to the extent of being permitted to be shorn and to be put to work, and their offspring and their milk are prohibited. And after their redemption, and one who slaughters them outside the temple courtyard is liable, and they affect the Tamora, and if they die, they must be buried.
Okay.
So Gibble. For logic would have included that the first testimony, which is not rendered permanently forbidden, cannot be established by less than 2 witnesses. Then the last testimony, which does render permanently forbidden, should certainly not be established by less than 2 witnesses. But the Torah teaches that there were none to testify against her, any manner of testimony which there may be against her. But now the logic of Kal V'chomer dictates in regard to the first testimony that if the last testimony, which is not rendered permanently forbidden, yet can yet be established by 1 witness, and the first witness, which is not rendered permanently forbidden, should certainly be established by 1 witness. But the Torah teaches, for he found in her some moral matter, and there over there it says, by the testimony of 2 witnesses shall a matter be established. Just as over there is by testimony of 2 witnesses, here too it is by the testimony of 2 witnesses. Excuse me. If 1 says she was defiled and 2 says she was not, she drinks. If they 2 say she was defiled and 1 says she was not defiled, she does not drink. They may be said in any language: the biblical passage of the Sota, the vow or the tithe, the attestation of Shema, prayer, the grace after meals, the oath of testimony, and the oath of the deposit. And these must be said. That's it.
That's great.
Okay. And the last we have here is Shabbos. Okay. Yud Aleph. We may lower the Pesach offering into the oven in nightfall, or we may ignite with chips the fire of the pyre in the temple fire chamber. But in the country, this may not be done unless there is sufficient time for it to take a hold of most of them. Rabbi Yehuda says with charcoal is permitted as long as there's sufficient time for the fire to take hold of any amount. What may be light Sabbath lamps, and what may be not light, we may not light neither with cedar bands nor with uncarded flax, nor with floss silk, nor with willow bass, nor with desert fiber, nor with sea moss, nor may we light with pitch, nor with wax, nor with cottonseed oil, nor with that oil that must be burnt, nor with fat from the sheep's tail, nor with tallow. Nachal the Mid says we may light with boiled tallow, but the comment said whether it's boiled or not boiled, we may not light with it. We may not light with oil that might be burnt. On Yom Tov, the Mishna says we may not light with tar because of honor due the Sabbath, but sages permit lighting with all oils, namely with sesame and nut and radish oil, with fish oil and with colsanite oil and with tar and with naphtha. Rav Shotafin says we may light only with olive oil.
Okay, so have a wonderful Shabbos.
Good job, enjoy. Have a great Shabbos. Thank you. Well, thank you.